What if I told you that a plate of eggs and bacon was good for your heart? It sounds crazy, right? Well, insider Dr. Jonathan Fialco shocked us all by debunking some common misconceptions about cholesterol.
So going back 40 years ago, when we didn't understand particles, we said, well, the cholesterol is higher with saturated fat. That must be bad for us. What we didn't realize is two things. Number one, they raise the HDL, which is the protective cholesterol, even more than others. But that doesn't fit into the old school of thought, so we don't talk about that.
Right.
But something's going on here because it's raising the good more than the bad. But also, it doesn't increase the number of particles. So it's the number of particles that get into the blood that we care about. More triglycerides will increase the number of particles. But saturated fat will fill the particles with more cholesterol, but it won't increase the number of particles, which is probably why saturated fat truly does not lead to vascular disease. It was a misnomer. It can raise your LDL cholesterol, but not necessarily in a way that's dangerous. It won't raise your triglycerides. It raises your HDL. So
why that misguided information?
Because 40, 50 years ago, all we know was cholesterol and heart disease. We didn't know about particles. Originally, we didn't even know about LDL and HDL.
Right.
So yeah, if you take a population with high saturated fat intake and high unsaturated fat intake, you'll have a higher cholesterol in this one. Also going back 40, 50 years ago, if not more, they did observational studies. So they looked at people who had higher cholesterol levels and said they had higher heart disease. But they didn't look at things like a higher cholesterol diet at the time might have included French fries and hamburgers. They smoked, they drank more.
Right.
So a higher saturated fat diet, especially 40, 50 years ago when we thought fat was bad, was associated with a more risk lifestyle. So it wasn't necessarily the fat. So this is a major issue that we have to get past. There's never been one medical study on the planet Earth that proved that saturated fat intake leads to heart disease.
That's one big clarification right there.
Yeah. And saturated fat, again, I'm not promoting people go out and start eating saturated fat, but it produces satiety. So if you eat foods that are natural that have saturated fat, you could argue you're going to be less hungry and keep your weight down and be healthier.
Now, so we learned all about the different fats, and we even touched upon the relationship between carbs and triglycerides earlier in the show. So for our viewers at home, we have a couple of different popular breakfasts, and Dr. Fialco, you are going to explain which would you choose for low triglyceride levels, and which would you advise to stay away from?
So the reality is there's no one diet for everyone. Even within an individual, there are different diets based on their weight and their age and their lifestyle. The cereal with milk is the classic, what has been called the heart healthy breakfast, and I can tell you that in my school of thought that is not a good breakfast. Because what is food supposed to be? Nutrition, energy, and decreased hunger. That's a pure carbohydrate breakfast, especially if you use skim milk, because skim milk is milk with the fat taken off, so it's just leaving the sugar behind. So that breakfast will be absorbed. It'll trigger an insulin response. All that energy will be stuck in your belly for storage for later. It won't be used. It won't be delivered to your muscles. So there's nothing wrong with cereal and milk, but as part of your diet, you will be hungry. And I challenge people to eat a bowl of Cheerios in the morning with some skim milk, and by 10 in the morning, looking for a snack.
So here we go, skim milk is something that we think,
skim milk is, so there's many studies that have shown milk consumption versus skim milk is associated with being healthier and less heavy. Skim milk can promote obesity. Why? Because you're eating calories that don't give you satiety. It's the ability to prevent hunger. So cereal and milk, nothing wrong with it. If you want to lose weight, you're not going to lose weight. Because if you're overweight, you have a certain body need, there's not enough energy in it, you're going to be hungry, so you'll be reaching for potato chips or something.
Does the same go for oatmeal?
So oatmeal also is a cereal. So oatmeal is a carbohydrate. Now again, this is where it gets technical, but oatmeal is a fairly good carbohydrate in its natural form because it's coated with fiber. So fiber slows our absorption of sugar. The idea is when we eat sugar, like at Cheerios, we absorb it quickly, it's in the liver, we have to make all these triglycerides and all these particles. But oatmeal, which takes about 30 minutes to soften the fiber, doesn't get absorbed fast because the fiber blocks the body's absorption. The problem is when you use instant oatmeal, they've taken the oat flake, which you can argue is fairly healthy, gives you a slow source of energy, they beat it down, they throw out the fiber, so you're left with a bowl of sugar. That's why it softens quickly. So when you take instant oatmeal and add water, it's a bowl of sugar, that's all you're getting. Steel cut oatmeal, you could argue, is a little better because steel cut's the full flake with the fiber and they cut it really small so it softens faster. But I would argue again that oatmeal's a good food, no problem. If you're a healthy person, you're eating oatmeal, keep doing it. If you have a triglyceride elevation or you want to lose weight, it might not be the best food for you. Not because in and of itself it's bad, but it'll promote hunger down the road, so you'll eat more over the course. Going back to this slide, if you look at eggs and bacon, which again, eggs to me are God's greatest food, you know, in nature, because they really have great sources of energy and proteins and are very healthy. Bacon in and of itself is not bad. However, bacon gets processed with nitrates and stuff.
Right.
So if you like bacon, eat your bacon, but try to get it unprocessed and more natural.
Okay.
But going back, the issue with eggs and bacon, as an example I use, let's go back to those first two slides. Let's say I have cereal with skim milk, maybe a banana, which is a high sugar
Right.
fruit. So maybe let's say it's 400 calories for breakfast versus 3 scrambled eggs and bacon, which let's say is 800 calories.
Right.
So I mean, twice the calories of eggs and bacon, you think will gain weight. The difference is with the cereals and milk, you'll be hungry 2 hours later and you'll be eating more.
With the eggs and bacon, you'll
You
be
won't
full.
even think of lunch. I mean, you're just,
Right.
lunch will be something you eat, but you don't have those cravings, which is usually why diets fail. So it's how you give your body energy it can use and decrease hunger. Avocado toast
Let's
is a
talk
nice
about
healthy
avocado
food.
toast because it's so trendy to
So
have
again, if you're a
avocados.
healthy person, avocados are healthy. The toast, you'd want to have a whole grain bread, not a white bread, because again, it's a processed flour. But there's nothing wrong with it. But again, it's difficult to get overweight people to eat avocado toast long enough to lose weight and be happy.
Right.
Your body for a few days, if you go into a starvation diet by cutting energy, you'll lose weight. And you'll lose some water,
But that's not a
etc.
proper way,
But you don't
not
stay on it,
realistic.
because after a few
Right.
days, all your energy is stored in your belly. The muscles are saying, where's our energy? And diets fail because of hunger.
So of those 3 photos, stay away from cereal and milk?
So if you want to lose weight,
Yes.
if you want to lower triglycerides, I would say stay away from cereal and milk.
And-
if you're a healthy person enjoying cereal and milk, that's
Right,
fine.
but if you want to lose weight, maybe focus on egg and bacon.
Right, which speaks to, I won't say the fad, but the movement towards lower carbohydrate type diets
Right.
for weight loss. So again, I want to be clear. If you follow what's called the Mediterranean diet, which is a high omega-3, omega-9 diet, low red meat, which again I don't think is necessary, that's fine. There's nothing
Right.
wrong with it, but it's not like that is the only way to achieve the success of lowering cardiovascular risk and losing weight.
Isn't that so interesting? Like he said, it's all about the healthy fats and watching your carbs.